Hi everyone, my name is Elizabeth Bowles and this is one of my first videos that I've done for teaching. I've been teaching about 20 years and today I want to start out with something a little bit simpler, but I think you'll really enjoy it. So let me show you first the colors that we will be using. We will need phthalo blue, we will need cerulean blue, Hooker's green, white, and a little bit of white beside that, some black, yellow ochre, and raw umber. The brushes that we will be using, we will need a good sized bristle brush for background work. We will need two round bristle brushes, one a little bit bigger than the other. We will need a large size Filbert Soft, a script liner, a fan brush, a small and a medium round brush. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to paint streaks from top to bottom, and we're going to start with the phthalo blue. I'm just going to go from top to bottom. Let me just skip over some more. This is going to be a scene that is going to be a nighttime scene of a pond with some lily pads, and there will be a moon. I think you'll really enjoy this one. Okay, so you just do a little blending. Get some of that in there. That's your main color. Okay, and then you're going to go straight into the green. You don't have to clean the brush. And you're going to put some green pretty much in between where you put the phthalo blue. This bristle brush is really a good one for background. You can buy these brushes at the hardware store. This one, not the others. I'm a big believer in the right brush does the best job. So we'll be changing brushes a little bit. Well, quite a few times we'll change brushes. So once we get the green in there, then we want to take some cerulean blue. Still don't have to clean the brush at all. And at this point, we're going to come in here and look at the whole canvas. And we're just going to do some blending so that the whole thing is blended. And we're going to use this cerulean blue to do the blending. So that's going to change our phthalo blue. And it's going to change our Hooker green and give it some lighter hues. So right now I'm just working with the cerulean blue. Cerulean blue is pretty much a phthalo lightened up is what it is. But it's a little easier to have some of that because it's just a very nice color. It's a very beachy color too, I think. I use it quite a bit, but you can always lighten up the phthalo. Just keep doing this and continue on until you get a nice smooth coverage of the entire thing. One of the reasons that this one goes as quickly as I hope it will. Sometimes I'm wrong, but one of the reasons that it goes as quickly as it does is because you're putting your background in the same all over, and then you're going to cut it with the land and separate the sky from the water. So we'll see that in just a few minutes. I usually like to paint the sides of the canvas, like the sides here and here, and that gives you a chance to hang it as it is without framing it, and it also just gives it a real finished artistic touch. So I like to do that, but for time's sake and for the video, I'm gonna just go with painting the front. Just a few little spots at the bottom, which I didn't quite get it. Okay, look it over and see if you like that. Give it a little bit of blending. And that's our background. Okay? Now at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to cut into it with the land area. So to do that, we're going to start with, we can take the same brush again. We're going to mark where the land is going to go. Now, you never want your painting to have a focal point or something right in the center that's very prominent, because it cuts your painting in half and it's just really not a good composition. So we want to lower that sky a bit. So I'm just going to make a line across here, and that's going to be our land. I don't know if you can see that, but as long as you know where it is. Now we want some background behind that land that kind of represents growth back in there. So I'm going to go with the same brush, not cleaning it at all, into the phthalo again. And I'm just going to tap some little areas that look like growth into the background. Now, I'm not liking that color quite as much, so I want to darken it just a bit. And I will take just a touch of black. And I'll continue tapping, and that will blend in with that blue and make it just a bit darker. I didn't count on it showing up quite as light as it does. I think I'm going to add just a bit more. And all you're doing is tapping. Tapping can create some very good effects if you use the right brush for the right thing. And a bristle brush is good for that because the bristles spread out. And when you tap instead of brushing, then you get that effect. So I think that's good enough. Now I want to go into the pure black. Same brush. Still don't have to clean it right out. It's always good. I'm going to start right here where we stopped our line, and I'm going to bring it across. And then I'm going to put a little line that represents the land. And then I'm going to go in there and paint that land with just the black. And the land is uneven, so it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. I'm going to break it up a little bit. Okay, I like that. All right, the next thing we want to do is we will wash that brush. Go ahead and just put it in the water there. And we want to work on the bottom just a little bit before we go to the moon. Give us a chance to dry a little bit. We're going to take our round brush, the one that's a little bit bigger, and we're going to pick up some green, and we're going to paint in some lily pads, and they're pretty much just little ovals with a slit in them. So we're just going to scatter them out. I'm going to paint one here, just have an opening in it. I'm going to go back and highlight these. They're not showing up real well right now. Put a little black in it if we need to, to darken that just a bit. Okay, we'll put a few more of those in. Some a little bigger than others. The round brush just fits in there, and it gives you just what you need. So that's why the right brush is important, I think. And put one in here. A good size one there. I want you to let me know if you enjoy the videos because I've been asked to do them for a long time now and I haven't. And I'm trying to learn how to do that. So if you do enjoy them, I'll continue. I've got to be a bigger lily pad. I need a few more just to make it look nice. I need to put just the indication of a little one back in here. We're going to put some long grass right there. Maybe one that's kind of goes off the picture a bit. And a little one back in here. I think I want to enlarge this one a bit. Now I did add just a little bit of black to this to make it show up like I wanted it to. Okay, put that in the water. And I'm going to go to this other small round, and while that green is wet, I will pick up some yellow ochre. And this will give us our highlight. Now our moon is going to be right here. So our light will be coming from there. You don't want to put a lot of detail in here, just the tiniest bit of a highlight. If it doesn't go quite the way you want it to, I'll show you what to do, because this one didn't go quite like I wanted it. Usually if you can just put a quick stroke or two in it, that's well enough. It makes them stand out now and you can see them better. But this is a nighttime picture, so it's supposed to be in the darker shades. Okay, now this one that I didn't like the way it went, I'm going to pick up a little bit of green and I'm going to go back and brush out what I didn't want. Now I feel like I want to brighten it a little bit more. So just the tiniest touch on them this time. Of the yellow ochre. Sometimes that tiny touch turns into a little bit more than that. That's the joy of painting. You just never know what's going to happen, and it makes it exciting. Okay, and then you always want to look back at the total look of it and see that things are not uniform, but that they go together well. And at that point, I see that we needed a few more strokes in here. Now, some of this may fade and blend in with that green because it's wet. But I like the way it blends when it's wet, so we can always go back and add more. Took a little longer than you would think. Okay. It's in the water. The next thing that I want to do, get that sky a little bit with a chance to dry some more. We're going to put some tall grass that comes in here, and that's going to be what really brings the composition together. Now for that, I'm going to use a script liner. Now that's your brush that has the long, thin bristles, and it will pick up a lot of paint and will hold a lot of paint. And it's the only brush that will do that. The script liner is the only one. You think that a small brush like this would make the same mark, and it does make the same mark, but it won't carry it as long as this one will. This will hold more paint if you load it correctly. So I'm going to show you how to load that. First, I'm going to make a mixture of, I want green, and I want some of the raw umber to darken the green and make it look more natural. You see how that looks. We may change it, but right now it's a brown green. Now to make this brush do a really good job, you take 3 drops of water and you put into that mixture of paint. and you blend that to the side. And what that does is it thins that paint down to an inky consistency. And then you take your brush and you twist it and pull, twist and pull. And then that brush holds a lot of paint at that point. Look at that. Could you imagine that if it were a smaller brush? I see that I don't like the shade, so I'm going to put a little bit of black in that. I really need it to show up a little bit more. I may end up putting some yellow ochre. Let's just see what this does. You always want to crisscross when you do this, because that's the way that these weeds and willows will do, and grass and things like that. And you'll have to add more water along as those 3 drops are used up. So that's what I'm doing now. Okay, a few more. The one thing you want to avoid is you don't want to have like 3 pieces of grass just coming up in the same direction, because that's what we all tend to do. Our brain tells us to do these things because that's what we have seen and we did when we were young, and it stays with us. And unless we're taught differently, it's hard to do that without really thinking about it. But the more you crisscross, the more realistic it's going to look. Now I'm going to start pulling a little bit of yellow ochre in with that same color so that I have some different shades. You see how pretty that is? Pull a little yellow ochre in and add some more grass, and it just brings it forward. A light color always brings it forward. That's a little bit too light, but maybe it's going to work. Yeah, I like that. I like that contrast in the yellow ochre. A little more water. Sorry for getting in front of the camera. A lot more. But if you tried this with another brush, it would not work. So I'm really, really pleased to be able to show you that, because everybody just really is in awe of what it will do. But you have to practice with it. I have a lot of students and they say, I just don't like that script line. I don't like it. But then when they learn it, they do. I didn't learn it right away either. I had to practice for a good while. Try a little bit more. Just kind of look at it and see. You want this to come up pretty high to give it some balance at the top. And you may want to go back into the brown and just break that up a bit. The brown and green mixture we started with. So we have 3 layers. I'm liking that. I think we're just about finished with that. There's a little yellow coming in here. Okay, let's touch up the bottom there. And I think that looks good. One more bit of yellow. Yes. Okay. Now while you have that on the brush, if you want to go back over here and highlight just a little bit more, you can. It didn't fade out very much. Okay. And water. Now, the next thing we're going to do is put in a moon right here. The best way I've found to put in moon, and people always think that this is so odd, but I'm sure we've all tried to do something that was perfectly round and it never comes out that way. So what I like to do is take your finger and put the paint on it. Start in the middle and go round and round and round and round. And as you do, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it will have a little bit of a haze in it. I'm going to pick up the slightest touch of yellow this time. You start in the middle, and you just continue out. And you know, the moon has little differences in color. It's not smooth all over. And so this really helps too, because you'll end up with those marks on it. But you will have a better circle. You don't want a perfect circle. I kind of want to go just a little bit bigger. I may regret it, but let's see. You're still going to need to start in the middle to go out to get things going the right way. Touch it up just a little. You ever think I would have you finger painting today? Sometimes I do blending with my hands, and sometimes your hands are your best brush. Oh, I like that. I like that when that happens and the blue comes through. But always be careful when something like that happens, that you want to keep going, and you can ruin it by doing that. So you want to learn when to let go. Okay. Now we're going to put in the last touches, believe it or not. This has gone very quickly. And I need to get that color, excuse me. We need alizarin crimson. It's a very deep red, but it's a lipstick red. It's not a bright red like you're used to seeing. It's very, 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 very useful. Excuse me for that. Things happen, you know. Okay. Oil on it before I get more of it on my carpet. I suggest wearing an apron and all that because it's just important. You're going to get it on you. The day that you think you won't, that's the day that you will. If you do get it on you, you don't go wash right off your hands, so that's not a problem. But if you get it on your clothes, you can take hand sanitizer and rub it in and let it work itself in really hard, and then do it again, and you might have to rub it with a brush, work it some more. Then you take soap and water and rub it together under the faucet, then let the water run through it, and you may have to do that more than once, but it will break the paint down, and it will take a brush that is so hard where paint has dried in it, and it will clean that brush. If you let it work the paint out and wash it out thoroughly, then it will completely take a hard brush that you think is trash and make it like new again. I also recommend that you wash your brushes when you're done with shampoo and water, and never set them up like this in a container to dry, because the water will catch in the ferrules, this metal piece, and it makes the wood swell and you'll lose your bristles. So the shampoo is softer and more gentle on the brushes, but you always want to lay your brushes down flat to dry on a towel. And then when they're dry, you can always put them up like this. That's the way I store mine, in several containers. But those are just some facts that I always teach everyone because I think it's really important. You want to take good care of your supplies. So now I need that brush that was a small round. I'm going to wash that one. And we're going to put a few flowers in here, but we don't want one on every lily pad because that would just be overkill. And the way I like to do it is take a little alizarin crimson, a little white, and we're going to be making marks that will just come in, 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 until you create that flower. So I'm going to start with a good sized one here. And you want plenty of paint on the brush. I like to paint wet on wet. There's some things that you can't, and you have to wait for it to dry, but I like to paint wet on wet because you pick up the colors that are already on the canvas, and it blends, and it creates a beautiful shadow. So you really don't have to think about all the details because a lot of them will appear for you. Now this one is picking up a little too much green, so I'm going to leave that one alone for a minute and move over to another one and come back. So I want one here. Just touch and pull to the center. Plenty of paint on the brush. And this is a soft brush. If you used a bristle brush, which is harder, what happens is a bristle brush will pull the paint and cut through it like a brush, like a hairbrush would do your hair. And so if you use a soft brush, then it lays the paint down without doing that. Now there are times you want it to scrub in and there are times you want it to lay in. So that's how you choose your brush. Now you look at this and you think, composition, what do I want? I think I want just a smaller one here, not the same as the others. Now I've painted the back, but not the front, because to have some depth, you're going to want to do that. But I want to go back and be able to add some more color, because it's fading out into the green. I believe that it needs just a little one starting right here, just enough to bring the eye back over there. Okay, so now what I'm going to try to do is pick up enough color that I can go back and tap these in so they'll take the color a little better and get that background on of the flower. Combination of the alizarin crimson and the white. Get enough paint on there. It will take and look better. And that one I like. Okay, now I'm going to add some to the front. So like the flower is cupped like this. So you have petals in the back and you have petals in the front. Excuse my paint hands. That's the way it is. Okay. Now I'm going to add some petals for the front. That's working nicely. If you find it's not, then you add a little more white, and the white seems to do a little better. And you can go back and add the color. Maybe I'm just putting in those details to finish those flowers. You don't want to keep brushing them any more than you have to. But ideally, I should have waited for them to dry a bit more, and it would have shown better. It doesn't take acrylic long to dry, and I think wet on wet is a good way to to go. You just have to know what your limits are. Okay, so I'm going to give it just a look. Maybe a few little spots. I want to add a little more color to. You can always go back later and touch them up. I do that all the time. Sometimes I paint over them. And I added more white to that one. So now I need to go back and add some white to the others. Make sure the bottom is finished off. That's good. Okay. One more thing I want to do, which I didn't plan on doing, but I want to touch up that moon just one time with the brush. And like I said, don't be afraid of it being hazy. Don't be afraid of it being uneven or having marks in it, because that's the way the moon really is. And you'd rather have it that way than you would a moon that was perfect. So I'm just kind of straightening up a little bit here and there. See, I'm kind of swaying the brush back and forth. Had a little too much haze there. Okay, take a look. Turn it towards the light. Okay, I think we have finished our lily pond at night. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you do, come back and look for more soon. Thank you.